Do you remember what Christmas was like when you were a kid? The lights around the house, the smell coming from the kitchen, the family gathered together, and that feeling that everything had a different sparkle. Over time, many traditions from the 60s and 70s were left behind and now live only in our memories. In this video, we're going to revisit 15 Christmas traditions from that time that you might want to bring back. Get ready to recognize scenes, sounds, and flavors that shaped your story. Aluminum Christmas trees. In the 60s, Christmas took on an almost futuristic vibe with the arrival of aluminum Christmas trees. Launched in 1958, they quickly took over living rooms and store windows, shining without needing water or care. For a few years, they became a symbol of modernity in the holiday season. But in 1965, everything changed. The TV special. A Charlie Brown Christmas showed these trees as a cold commercial icon of the holiday, and the magic was broken. Sales crashed, the metallic tree trend disappeared from the Christmas scene, and all that was left was the memory of a Christmas wrapped in the idea of a shiny future. Coca-Cola Christmas caravans. Do you remember when those Coca-Cola trucks cut through the night like a parade of lights? They would roll into town slowly, lighting up storefronts, sidewalks, and curious faces. Lots of kids swore that convoy came straight from the North Pole, bringing Christmas along with it and turning into the talk of the town weeks beforehand. That so-called holiday caravan got stuck in people's memories. It had been around since the 1950s, but it was in the 70s that it became an icon. In the neighborhoods, whole families would organize themselves just to wait for the trucks to pass by. Later, in the 80s, with new slogans and new campaigns, the caravans started to lose space and almost disappeared from the streets. Homemade Christmas plays. Do you remember when Christmas basically happened right there in your living room? In the 60s, the couch turned into backstage, the table became the set, and every corner came to life. Parents improvised lines, kids made up elves and reindeer, while grandparents and neighbors squeezed together to watch. There was noise, laughter, forgotten lines, and everyone just rolling with it. Over time, the scene changed. In the 70s, the TV took over the center of the room, the VCR arrived, and those homemade stories slowly gave way to big Christmas movies that started to run the show and set the pace of the night, changing the way people lived that time of year. Sears and Montgomery Ward Christmas catalogs. Do you remember when Christmas really started the moment the Sears or Montgomery Ward catalog showed up in the mail? Kids dove into the Christmas wish book, turning page after page, holding their fingers on toys that seemed almost magical. Meanwhile, parents studied each section looking for gifts that were actually possible and fit the budget, circling with a pencil whatever would become an official request. Those catalogs were practically a family ritual until they started to disappear throughout the 80s and 90s. Little by little, even Sears' famous wish book stopped being printed, making room for new ways of dreaming about holiday presents. Popcorn garlands. Remember when Christmas decorations were made with our own hands? In the 60s and 70s, entire families gathered in the living room to turn popcorn and tinsel thread into long garlands that wrapped around the tree. Kids fought for a spot at the table, proud of every finished strand, while the adults enjoyed the feeling of togetherness and the memory of a simpler time. Little by little, though, this ritual gave way to plastic garlands and mass-produced ornaments, practical, sure, but far from that intimate connection with the holiday. Maybe that's why so many people today miss that patient care, the quiet broken up by laughter, while the tree slowly came to life. Door-to-door caroling. Do you remember when a group would show up at your door on a cold night and start singing? In the 70s, in many neighborhoods, friends and neighbors got together, walked down the street, and sang Jingle Bells, Silent Night, and so many others, while kids listened, hypnotized in the doorway. At every stop there was laughter, the smell of food, people crowding into the entryway to hear better. It was an old custom, inherited from English carols, that brought together people who barely knew each other. Today, you hardly ever see anyone going house to house. Conversations moved indoors, the streets went quiet, and that scene stayed locked away in memory. Train under the Christmas tree. Do you remember when a little train running around the base of the tree was the center of the living room? In many homes, it stayed on for hours, while kids lay on the floor watching every lap of the cars, as if the party only really started when the engine took off. These sets started to appear around 1920, and in the following decades became a surefire holiday wish, to the point of disappearing from store shelves. Little by little, though, they were replaced by electronic toys and bright screens, leaving behind more than just a decoration, a whole way of living the holiday. Personalized Christmas cards. Do you remember when a Christmas card felt almost like a visit on paper? In the 60s and 70s, lots of people gathered the family at the table, cutting, drawing, and hand-signing every message. They weren't just happy holidays wishes. It was a simple way of saying, "I thought of you this year." A full mailbox, the care with the envelope, the sound of the paper being opened. Everything was part of the ritual. Today, most of that is turned into a quick click, a notification on the screen, a standard message. Memory albums have shrunk into digital folders, and that patient gesture has given way to hurry. And along with the convenience, a piece of that quiet care has been left behind. Eggnog. Do you remember the smell of hot punch as soon as you walked in the door? At Christmas parties in the 60s and 70s, a big steaming bowl full of spices and fruit welcomed everyone. The eggnog came sprinkled with nutmeg and, for the adults, got a splash of rum or bourbon. This tradition, passed down from centuries ago, created a cozy atmosphere at every gathering. Little by little, though, the bowls were set aside and the tables started to fill up with lined-up bottles and ready-made cocktails. Very practical, but far less memorable, almost anonymous in the holiday rush, as if the ritual had gotten stuck in another time. Macy's and Sears. Do you remember when Christmas started in the store windows and kids would circle the date on the calendar to go see everything lit up? In the 60s, chains like Macy's and Sears turned shopping into a big event. There was music, puppet shows, the smell of fresh wrapping paper, a line to talk to Santa, and whole families walking through the aisles. But starting in the 80s, malls took over the cities, and that intimate atmosphere was left behind, turning into just a memory of a time that didn't seem to be in a hurry. Kids still asked for toys, but they no longer had the same ritual of discovering the magic between crowded shelves. Candles on Christmas trees. Imagine the scene for a second. A Christmas tree lit not by strings of colored lights, but by real flames, flickering with every movement of the air. At the beginning of the 20th century, candles were what brought the tree to life, and up until the 60s, many families still repeated this ritual, lighting them for just a few minutes to create a special mood. Only this magic came with fear. Any slip-up could turn into a fire. Starting in the 70s, candles almost disappeared from living rooms, replaced by electric lights, more practical and safe. Even so, when night falls, a lot of people still wonder if that steady glow can really spark the same quiet magic as the old candles. Live reindeer around town. In the 60s and 70s, Christmas took on a whole new life when real reindeer came to town. In parks and parades, they walked beside Santa while kids pressed up against the fence to see those animals that seemed to have stepped right out of the stories. The lights, the sound of hooves, and the smell of hay created a scene no one forgot. Zoos rented reindeer just for those days, and waiting for that moment became part of the holiday ritual. Today, big screens, animatronics, and special effects have taken center stage. They're practical, they're impressive, but do they still spark the same kind of wonder? Christmas markets. For decades, Christmas markets were the setting where the real holiday magic happened. In the 60s and 70s, walking between the stalls meant finding simple toys, candles, homemade sweets, and small gifts chosen with care. People stopped to talk, laughed, shared a hot drink, and enjoyed the time together. With the arrival of shopping malls starting in the 70s, everything became quicker and more practical, but also more distant. By trading the lit-up streets for enclosed hallways, how much of that atmosphere did we let slip away? And by making every choice easier, did we end up making Christmas a little emptier? Christmas specials. For a long time, Christmas specials on TV were one of the big holiday rituals. In the 60s and 70s, when a Charlie Brown Christmas started, kids ran to the living room to watch Snoopy getting into trouble while the adults let themselves be carried away by the stories. It was almost a mandatory get-together. In many American homes, everyone stopped to watch together. Today, that kind of program has become the exception. December nights are ruled by streaming, endless catalogs, and series marathons. The screen is still on, but that one unique moment, tied to a specific time, has given way to individual choices, made in silence, each person on their own device. What holiday memories still warm your heart? The family laughter, the smells from the kitchen, the glowing nights. If you could bring one tradition back to life, which one would you choose to make that magic real again? Tell us in the comments. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel to get more videos like this.